What's up guys, welcome to DIY Dudes. In this video, I'm going to show you how I refinish my kitchen with a quick facelift for under 200 bucks. I ended up having to replace two of my old outdated windows, so the first thing I had to do was custom cut some trim in order to limit the amount of tiling I had to remove. I did this to make sure I had as tight of a gap as possible with the new trim. I cut the trim out of 5/8 MDF, nailed it up with my nail gun, caulked the edges, and it was good to go. I was planning on painting the tiles when I was all done, so I made sure to use latex acrylic caulking, which is paintable rather than silicone. So the next step was I had to go ahead and get all the cabinets ready for paint. I went around with my screwdriver and drill, removed all of the handles and hinges, and then separated the doors off to the side. I used a heavy-duty cleaner to clean off any grime that had built up on the cabinets from years of use. You need to make sure that the surface is 100% clean so your paint sticks and lasts forever. Before I finished the countertops and the cabinets, I wanted to get the windows and the backsplash painted. Before you paint, you're going to want to make sure you protect your countertops as much as possible. Because I was going to refinish the countertops, all I was worried about was the edges. I wanted a nice crisp edge, so I used some painter's tape to seal it off. I used a semi-gloss, highly durable paint for the window trim, and I ended up actually using the same type of paint on the backsplash. I ended up doing 3 coats of paint on all of the windows and the backsplash. To get good coverage on the tiles, I really had to lay the paint on thick, and because of this, there was a lot of drips. I had to go back for the next 10-15 minutes and make sure that any drips appeared got brushed away. The next step was to paint the actual cabinets themselves. I used a very durable melamine finish paint that's specifically meant for cabinets. So the idea behind this stuff is it dries very hard and dries very smooth to look like a nice sheet of melamine. I cut in all the edges with a paintbrush and rolled all the flat surfaces smooth with a roller. I used a lint-free roller that was nice and clean to make sure no fuzzies ended up in the paint and all my cabinets. Once the base cabinets were done, the next step was to do the doors. I picked a big area where I could lay everything out flat and do it all at once. I did the border of the doors with the paintbrush because it had so much texture I couldn't do it with the roller. And once that was done, I did the interior of the doors with the roller, did 2 coats of paint on everything, flipped the doors, and then did the reverse. Once I had all the doors painted, I went ahead and reattached all of the hinges and hardware. I ordered new hardware off of Amazon to match the existing mounting points so I didn't have to drill any new holes for the doors. Before I took the doors off, I noted where they were actually from in the kitchen. I did this so that when I reinstalled them, I could easily put them back in the same spot and use the same mounting points. For the drawers, I was changing my knobs to handles to match the rest of the kitchen, and in order to do this, I had to fill in the existing hole and drill 2 new ones. To drill the holes, I use my cabinet hardware jig from True Position Tools. This thing is great and it saved me a ton of time. Measure the distance between your mounting points of your hardware, set it up along the center line of the jig, and then the template is set. You can recycle the thing from drawer to drawer, drill the holes as you go, and you're done in no time. Once I was done with the hardware, I jumped back to my backsplash. The paint was fully dry and now I was ready to use my high gloss sealer. I used a sealer that said right on the label that it would not yellow. I was very concerned about this because I had white tiles and I didn't want an amber finish. I wanted this thing to dry crystal clear. The one thing I really like about the sealer is that it added a different texture between the window trim and the backsplash paint. So I'm finally ready to refinish the countertop. I have a traditional butcher's block countertop made of wood, and this thing is beat up. I've been using it for years. It's been in my house for probably 20-30 years. It's covered in stains, burn marks, water damage, and I needed a heavy sanding to refinish this thing. I sanded the countertop using my random orbital power sander. I started with a 60 grit sandpaper in order to work out any big rough imperfections and worked my way down to a 240 to get a nice smooth finish. The whole point of this facelift is to give my kitchen a nice bright, modern look. To do this, I chose a white oil-based stain for the countertop. I went around and brushed the stain on the entire kitchen using a regular paintbrush. I made sure to apply the stain in the direction of the grain. I let the stain sit for about 15 minutes to fully penetrate the wood. Once it was good to go, I went around with a rag, wiped the stain off in the direction of the grain, and I ended up doing this process about 2 more times to get the desired level of white. After I let my stain dry for about a day, the final step in the process was to seal the countertop. I used an acrylic polymer-based sealer. The one I purchased said on the label that it was non-yellowing, but in reality, I think it did actually leave a little bit of a yellow tint. But in hindsight, it probably did a better job than some of the other ones may have done. I ended up applying about 3 coats of the sealer. I let each one dry for 3 to 4 hours, and between each coat, I sanded with a 340 grit sanding pad. The reason I did this is it buffed out any little imperfections and allowed the sealer to bond to the next coat. So the project's finished up, and overall I'm very happy with the results. I spent probably about $200 on paint, hardware, and brushes, but doing this work myself was easy and kind of fun. My kitchen looks brand new, and a contractor probably would have charged me several $1,000s to do this. Thanks for watching, subscribe for more great content, and see you next time.